components you need to tie the stiff hinge rig are a 15mm Mach 1 pop-up, some chod hook link, 2 rig tying toolkits, some bait floss, fan gapers in a size 5, safety bolt bead ring swivels, total mass rig putty and some oval rig rings. To tie the stiff hinge rig, take approximately 6 or 7 inches of Nash chod hook link. This stuff's really easy to work with. Attach a size 5 gaper to the hook link using a knotless knot. 5 or 6 turns down the shank of the hook will ensure it's nice and secure. Next, pass the tag end of the hook link through the eye of the hook, always from the back towards the point, and pull tight. Next step is to cut the tag end at an angle. This just makes it slightly easier to pop through the eye of the hook. Now pop your oval rig ring on to the tag end. This can be a bit fiddly, but just pop the tag end back through the eye of the hook and secure in place by blobbing with a lighter. Always ensure your hook link's tucked well out of the way when blobbing the tag end to ensure it doesn't become damaged. To finish the pop-up section of the rig, form an overhand loop in the end of the chod material. This can be a little bit tricky if you're not used to tying these kind of rigs, but keep practicing. Certainly something that's well worth learning. Remember, before you tighten down any of your knots, always moisten them thoroughly beforehand, just so they don't slip or get damaged when tightening up the knots. To tighten the knot, take a rig puller from your rig tying toolkit and just gently tease the knot down like so. To tie the boom section of your stiff hinge rig, use 12 to 15 inches of chod link. Give yourself plenty of this material to work with, it just makes life a little bit easier. Now pass one end through the loop of your pop-up section. Leave yourself a big tag end and form another loop. Now pass the hook from your pop-up section through the loop like so, and slowly pull the loop from your pop-up section through the loop on the boom section. Manipulate the knot here just so you've got the loops roughly around the same size. It can take a bit of practice, but just tease the knot down, and remember, before you tighten down, always moisten the knot. The two loops, roughly the same size, now give you the hinge, and just tighten up using your puller tool. Now trim your tag ends and you'll be left with two loops which form your hinge. As you can see, we've formed two loops which give you your hinge, and this is what makes this rig so effective, the movement on these two loops. Now the next step is to attach your swivel, and for this we're going to use another overhand knot. Again, leave a big tag end, it just makes life easier. Simple overhand knot, pass the swivel back through the loop, and at this stage you need to moisten your knot again. With all knots on these choddy hook links, you just must make sure they're nice and moist. Once you've teased the knot down, trim your tag end again and use two rig pullers on either end of the loop of your boom section just to pull it tight, not too much but just enough to straighten the hook link out. And this choddy material really does straighten out just under a little bit of pressure. Now you've got the rig itself, the next stage is to tie the bait on. To do this, use some Nash bait floss and form a large loop, pin this in place and form a slightly smaller loop just inside. Pass your tag end of the bait floss through the small loop once and then pass it through a second time and pull down tight to hold in place. Next, take a 15mm Mach 1 pop-up. It's absolutely essential that you use a really buoyant bait for this rig. To secure the bait in place, pull your two tag ends of your bait floss and your knot will pull down tightly. Make sure this is nice and secure because this is what will hold the bait on. To be extra safe, I like to tie just another granny knot just on top of the knot we've already formed, just so I know that knot cannot slip. Take the tag end from your bait floss and thread through the oval rig ring. Nothing too technical here, just a couple of overhand granny knots to keep the bait in place on the back of the hook. The big hook here, the gaper here, is absolutely ideal for this type of rig. A nice big hook that's going to sit perfectly under that 15mm bait. Once you've tied the bait in place, trim your tag ends down and just blob the ends to ensure that the bait floss is nice and tidy. Make sure you keep all other components and parts of the rig out of the way as to not damage any of the hook link that you've tied earlier on. The final stage is to take your total mass rig putty and just blob a tiny little bit of this around the knot on your pop-up section. Make sure you don't cover any of the loop as the movement here is critical to the way the rig works. Just to make sure you've got it completely right, always test these kind of rigs in the margin beforehand and just to make sure you've got the right amount of total mass putty on the knot. There you have it, the stiff hinge rig, a big fish rig that just won't let you down.